Okay, class, so we are on chapter 13, and we're talking about the issues of voluntary consent. And what we're dealing with here is things that can make the contract void or voidable. And we were talking, and here we're talking about fraudulent misrepresentation. We left off on part 1 with mistakes in the contract. So fraudulent misrepresentation is when an innocent party is induced to enter into a contract by a misrepresentation of a material fact. Please note that the fact that they're misrepresenting has to be material. Okay? So if you're buying a used car that's 20 years old and the seller misrepresents it by 1 year, that's probably not material because the value of cars that old is not going to be a significant factor. However, if it is a more recent car, then it might be. So when we talk about a material fact, what we're talking about is something that would have negated the person entering into the contract had they known the true fact. In this case, the innocent party can rescind the contract or enforce the contract and seek damages for any harms resulting from the fraud. So the elements of fraudulent misrepresentation are a misrepresentation of a material fact. There must be an intent by the deceiving party to deceive, and the innocent party has to rely upon that. There has to be some harm caused to that individual. It can be by words or by conduct. Or it can be a situation where the party that's making the misrepresentation has taken actions to conceal something that would be a material fact. So for example, changing the odometer on an automobile or disconnecting it for a significant period of time. That would be concealing, and that's misrepresentation. Statements of opinion are an exception. Generally, we don't treat statements of opinion as something that would negate the voluntariness of a contract. The exception is where you have a naive purchaser who's relying on the opinion of an expert. In that situation, the person can rescind or seek reformation of the contract. With regard to the innocent person with fraudulent misrepresentation, there's no proof of injury required. It's to rescind the contract. However, to get damages, you do have to prove injury. Another action that can result in nullifying or voiding or making the contract voidable is undue influence. This arises from relationships in which one party greatly influenced another party and overcomes that party's free will. Generally, when we talk about undue influence, for it to have application, it's going to require some sort of special relationship. So it's usually a relative that would be involved, or a relationship such as a principal and an agent, an agency relationship. If the contract has that undue influence in the reaching the contract and therefore lacks voluntary consent, then the contract is voidable by the person who has been deceived or affected by that undue influence. Duress is a little bit different. Duress is a creation of fear in the part of one of the parties to enter into the contract. The threatened action in this must be wrongful or illegal and render the person incapable of exercising free will. The threat of a civil suit, though, does not rise to duress, and is not unlawful, because everybody has the right to bring a lawsuit. Adhesion contracts and unconscionability. We've talked about unconscionability before. Adhesion contracts are contracts that have these kind of characteristics. First of all, generally the person entering into the contract who did not write the adhesion contract usually is in a position where they have very little or no choice at all. Generally, adhesion contracts are long, many, many pages, and very small print. So the person is presented with a situation of take it or leave it. These are often standard form contracts, and there's no negotiation to them. So in order to avoid an adhesion contract, you have to show that the particular clauses that negatively affect you are unconscionability. They're burdensome and unfairly benefit the dominating party. Okay, so I'm going to stop there with part 2. Remember that the magic word for chapter 13 is fraudulent.